Well, hello to everybody seeing our Up&Under show. This supposedly is a Portuguese podcast about rugby, but it now belongs to the international area with all these famous guests, starting with Mr. Graham, the Dead Ball area, a Twitter page that you can follow. Also, Rob Yar from Rugby Scribbler, another Twitter page. Well, a lot of Twitter pages are here, and and AP Cronje, another Twitter page that's here with us. Vitor Ramalho is coming in from Portal do Heavy, which website in South America, which stopped all functions since Thursday, but we hope they come back soon. Today is to celebrate the end of the tours between the Lions and the Springboks. I know what some people are going to say. It was not an amazing tour. It was very good. We had also a lot of different type of moments and emotions and so on. Everybody who saw the last match was like with his face onto the TV or the computer or the phone, because and when Morgenstein came in, I said to myself, it's over. He's going to score the last 3 points or the last try or the last drop goal, so it's done. AP, when you saw Morgenstein coming in at the 65th minute of the last match, what was the first thing that crossed your mind? Come on, be honest.
Well, thanks for having me back on, Francisco, for a start. Really great to be here. And I think the first thing that
Oh, wait, this he'll come back in
I was like,
20.
wow, I'm surprised Pollard off solely. Okay, I'm back in.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
No,
right.
I was just saying. I think my first reaction was actually I think it was quite a bold move by the coaches to take Pollard off so early. I sort of I thought they might give him a bit longer. I thought Mornay was probably just there as a contingency. But I think it was good that they backed him. And then obviously, for him to come and close out the series, it was, you can't write it really, can you? I was just pleased for him as well, given that the last game that he played 5 years ago, 2016, was an absolute drubbing. And I think he copped a lot of stick for it as well. So it was nice for him to have some element of redemption. I mean, he's playing tomorrow as well, but we'll see where he goes from here. But I think just on a personal level for him, I'm really really pleased for him. And yeah, I mean, obviously everyone talks about that final kick to win it, but honestly, the one from the touchline, sort of on the right hand side, which is a difficult kick for a right-footed kicker, that was a pretty clutch penalty as well. So no, very very good outing for Mornay.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing. Graham, you are a bit much older than us. I want to say
Yeah.
more
A bit much
experience,
older.
more experience. It's
I like
the
that.
best way to say. When you saw Morgenstein came in, it was a deja vu, and in another plane, it was good to see an old guy coming in and be so decisive in those last 15 minutes.
Yeah, my first thoughts were there's hope for me yet.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it was yeah. I think AP just hit it on the head there. I mean, if you're going to bring, I thought he'd be contingency, but he came in that first kick to take them into the lead, put them in a position was absolutely phenomenal. So we all know how good a player he is. To see him come in at the death, do it again. Yeah, you can be upset if you're a Lions fan, but you've got to admire the you've got to admire a guy who's 37-year-old still able to put it in. He wasn't like he only came on and did a kick either. He was involved in the game.
Yes.
So yeah, no, deja vu, not the nicest deja vu, but you also have to admire like a really nice guy who's come back in and yeah, got the trophy. You can't argue that, can you?
Yeah, it got a big trophy. Rob, I know for a Welsh fan, seeing Morningstein coming in was like flashes of the past, and it's complicated flashes because it's like nightmares coming alive again. But you had a guy that was supposedly out of the tour in end of June, and suddenly he was starting. Halloween Jones, how great was it to see one of the best players of the last 20 years of the world coming out of a big injury and giving 100%, or almost 200%.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I'm more of a Scotland man, really. But yeah, I did live in Wales for
Come on,
like the last
have to
4 years. So I've got yeah, I mean, Alan Wynne-Jones is a Swansea boy, and that's where I lived. So no, in all seriousness, it was brilliant to see. I think what was it, 7 minutes of the game he survived against Japan before he went off, and I think, for whether, some people even question whether he should have been on the tour. I'm not in that camp, but I think for such a legend that would have been such a wrong way for his Lions career to finish, as a captain as well. And yeah, for him to make that comeback and then to go on and, he didn't sort of do 20 minutes off the bench to, I guess, like to finish off his Lions career. Like he came back and he put in some serious shifts. So, I mean, yeah, everyone's been talking about Maro clearly because, he was definitely a standout for the Lions. He plays on the edge and he had an excellent tour. But I think Alan Wynne-Jones is so central and such a leader. Yeah, it was just the perfect way really for him to end his Lions career.
Do you think it ended?
I mean, he could come back age 38, would he be? I mean, yeah, like Stain has just proved that that's not entirely impossible. But I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe you heard it here first. We're going to get an Alan Wynne-Jones drop goal to win the series in Australia.
Well, for the new rules, it seems that someone wants that to bring rugby league to rugby union. I'm going back to AP. This was a difficult series because in all of things, COVID, difficulty of traveling, injuries, the box not being fit, international fit, not physically, not international fit. But in the end, after some people said cancel the tour, it was worth it. I think most of the people, not say everyone, but most of the people were happy how it ended and how amazing it was. Yeah, we didn't have total rugby, but we had physical, tactical engagement, good talks of the coach, and so on. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've touched on it there and said, I think it was a minor miracle that the tour went ahead. For a long time, it was very touch and go, and I think credit must go to both the Lions management and obviously South African rugby for being quite versatile in very, very tricky situation. COVID is one thing, but then you add in the sort of disturbances that South Africa's had. And
He'll come back. Wait, people, he'll come back.
itinerary. Oh, sorry, I'm having a nightmare.
No, you're on. Yeah.
The Wi-Fi clearly, but no, but I was just saying that with the popular unrest combined with the COVID disruption, credit has to go to both SA Rugby and the Lions for being so versatile and, in being able to stage a tour in any circumstances in these trying situations is impressive. And I think that, a lot has been said about the tour, not all of it positive, which is understandable. I'm sure we'll touch on that eventually. But I think for me, I'm personally just very, very glad that it went ahead. I think that the Lions is something which is truly special, and I think it would have been a real shame if it hadn't been able to happen in South Africa. And actually, putting everything off the pitch aside, I think that we had 3 games of intense, brutal, tactically astute rugby that. Some people said that, it might not have been the most aesthetically pleasing style of play, but for me, I think that, and I think for most Lions fans as well, there's not a single second of those 3 matches that I watched that I wasn't fully engaged on my seat, tense, and I certainly wasn't bored. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on it, I guess.
Graham, in all the series, what was the defining moment for you that made it so special and works?
So I think it all came down to the final test. I think it was really nice to actually have like a decider rather than have the test closed out in the second game. I know a lot of people would have liked the Lions to win, but I was quite pleased to see it go to a 3-game, the full series, so that it all came down to that final moment. I think the lasting memory is going to probably be Stein's penalty. I think Khaleesi was unbelievable, and I think the impact he had over the series and the impact he has. I mean, I live in South Africa, so I can testify to what AP was saying earlier about the trouble and how difficult it's been to stage this tour. And Khaleesi to come in and lead the way he has, and the impact that's had outside of the tour is really, really hard to kind of get across to anybody who's not in South Africa. It's been huge here, even though people can go to the stadiums and things like that. So surely that final kick, because obviously everybody, the world was watching, as it were, but Khaleesi's impact in this tour and the impact, the way it's gone outside of the tour, the impact it's had on people now is just absolutely huge. And I think that's the real, certainly from being in South Africa, that's the big takeaway is how well respected that guy is. It's unbelievable.
Rob, do you think Khaleesi can be, and I'll go with this question to AP and Graham, Khaleesi is one of the great captains and leaders in South Africa rugby in the last 30 years. I know it's a lot to process because you had John Smith on the last tour and so many great guys that defined the Springboks and defined themselves by representing them as the leader. But what do you think about Khaleesi's role in all this?
I don't want to be reductive of his rugby to start with, but I think even just in the first place, being the first black captain of South Africa in itself that's history. You can't question that, and that's absolutely huge. But it's not just that, is it? Because the guy's he's a Rugby World Cup winning captain. He's won a Lions tour. As captain, he's absolutely. I'm not huge. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't reel off all of the South African captains and the greats, it's not my strong point. But absolutely, this guy's definitely got a place in history. His achievements on and off the field are massive.
AP, one of the greatest?
Yeah, the greatest. And I say that without a hint of, or without a shadow of a doubt. And I'll sort of elaborate a little bit on that, because obviously you have some amazing South African captains. If you look back, you have your Francois Pienaars, and you've got your John Smiths, and you've got your Morne du Plessis, and these guys are obviously all legends of the game in their own right. But I think the reason that Khaleesi stands out, and it's exactly what Rob was just touching upon, and I think it's really just because this South African side, this Khaleesi sort of Erasmus era South Africa side is completely different to one we've ever.
Moment. I'm going to say a moment.
Beyond stuff.
What? Almost come back
again. Here we go again in the middle of a very serious conversation.
Restart.
I feel like every time
I
AP makes a good point, it goes.
Restart.
It just goes right. But I think his role is, I think he's been the first captain that has had a role which is so wide ranging, just from being on the pitch to obviously the management, and then having being this figurehead within South Africa as well. His achievements obviously speak for themselves. Rugby Championship, World Cup, Lions Series winner. That's great. But I think the mark of him is the mark of him as a man, and just the respect that he garners from everyone who comes across him, and how highly anybody who's worked with him speaks of him. So no, I genuinely believe that he's the best captain that South Africa has ever seen.
Wait, because he was finishing very strongly, and I'm going to pass to Graham once AP finished. Okay, what you said, you one of the greatest the greatest captain in the Springboks history. Wait, AP. You're back.
Yeah,
you're saying.
I'm standing by that. I think he's the greatest captain that South African rugby has ever seen. Just because I think South African rugby has been reimagined in the last sort of, let's say, 4 or 5 years, and I think he's been a big part of that. And what South African rugby is and can be, hopefully, will change, and he plays a very big part of that. So yeah, for me, he's the greatest captain that South Africa's ever had.
Graham, you saw Francois Pienaars and a lot of great South African captains, but some people tarnished with Khaleesi because said he was only a good leader, not a great player. But in this series, he had almost 35 tackles. He missed, if I'm not wrong, 3. Had 2 turnovers, 1 try-saving tackle, just on defense. Do you reckon him as one of the best blindside flankers at this moment in the rugby world?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got to be up there, isn't he? I think there's a couple of things with Khaleesi. I think the first thing is, if you talk about, we were talking earlier about sort of the great South African captains, and I think all the really great South African captains kind of really defined the team. They were really representative of the team at the time, and Khaleesi, more than anybody now, really represents what that team is, the makeup of that team, and what it means. Like, people talk about him, on the street. He's really had that kind of impact. In terms of playing ability, I mean, as a captain, he's won a World Cup. He's won the Tri-Nations or the Rugby Championship. So, you can't argue with those results. As a player, yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think Ninaba and Erasmus are a guy to pick somebody on a token gesture. I think he's there because he is the best player available to them. Is he the best in the world? No, but he doesn't need to be. He needs to be right for South Africa. And I think unquestionably he is the first choice number 6 in South Africa. He suits their style of play. He's a great leader. He's exactly what that team needs. He's not a guy who does a lot of speaking. He leads from the front, and that's what you want from an open side, and that's what you want from your captain. So, yeah, he might not be the best open side in the world, but he's certainly in the mix, and he's definitely the right choice for South Africa. I think is the best way to look at it.
Sorry, if I can jump in quickly here, Francisco.
No, you can jump.
I think that's a really good point as well. I think that South Africa has sometimes got a bit of a history of picking guys to be captain who are not, maybe not even necessarily the best in their position. I think that Khaleesi is the best in his position, but I mean, you look at someone like Francois Pienaar, you look at someone like John Smith, there was always questions about them, as players, particularly towards the latter end of their careers. And often, that clouds the conversation, and that can take over the narrative when really it's difficult for us as, lay people, as just fans, and even as analysts or journalists, to look into this and really get the full picture, because we don't see 90% of what goes on behind the scenes in these, in the training camps, behind closed doors, what gravitas these people really bring to the team and what influence they bring. We look at rugby games, and I think sometimes it's a bit myopic. We can look at rugby games and sort of think that the 80 minutes that we see is what decides the test match, and actually it's the entire week leading up to that point. It's probably the entire series leading up to that point. So, and I think, it's difficult for us to judge what influence, someone like Khaleesi has in proceedings, because we don't have access to that, to that information. And I think that's similar for captains all over, world rugby. I think oftentimes you find captains bring this extra, insight, extra leadership. So yeah, I think that's exactly what sort of Graham was saying as well.
Yeah, totally. Rob, maybe this was the difference between the Boks and the Lions. The Lions had one great leader. It was Alwyn Wynne-Jones. And if you look to the rest of the team, you had very good guys in the communication and so on. But when you look to the Boks, you have Khaleesi, who is a great captain. You had Andre Pollard, who can talk and say the most certain things in the best moments. You had Etzebeth. So maybe that was the turning point for the Boks. The leaders who stepped up and gave everything they got, and the rest of the team just followed. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I think so, but I think it was also on other tours, and maybe this is partly to do with the tour structure. Previously, you would have the midweek games, like in between the tests to redo things and to try things ahead of the next test. Whereas this time, don't get me wrong, there were some players who were nailed on in their positions, but I didn't feel like, when we're selecting Dan Biggar, there were still question marks of, is he the starting 10? Stuart Hogg, people saying, is he the starting 15? The wings were hugely up for debate. And even the centres, that was, kind of changing around as well throughout the tour. And all of those players were excellent, but I just genuinely don't think that we saw that settled side really, which potentially you've seen in the past. So undoubtedly there were huge leaders in that group, but I don't think they got settled and the time to play together. And I think, on previous tours, I really do think the Lions probably missed those midweeks, just to tweak a few things, to try some combinations ahead of later games. And yeah, leadership was definitely a big thing, but I think it was also, I wouldn't even put it down to blaming the coaches, like I think they made good selections, but I just don't think that they had the opportunity to get that consistency within the team that allows those leaders to really sort of, I guess, bring their A game,
Yeah, I understand you. Just to make everything clear, what you just said, it's correct. It's not 100% correct, but some people thought that the previous Lions tours had 2 games between the test matches, just one. In 2017, the Lions played against the Hurricanes after losing the first game with the All Blacks, and in 2013 in Australia they played against the Melbourne Rebels after the first game with Australia. So I know what you're saying, it's the tweaks, but I think more than ever it was COVID and the travel situation and the bubbles and so on. I think AP, that was one of the hardest parts of the tour, that most of us don't get to understand it or to feel it, because we were at home with our family and or we could go out with safety to see friends, but they couldn't. They were closed for 2 months, the Lions and the Springboks for 1 month, and now the Springboks going to be closed for the next 2 months, almost 3 months if they go when they go to Australia. So to the players, maybe that's why there was not so much happy times, because happy times was on the field. The tour, supposedly, it's everything else. It's knowing culture, knowing people, knowing how a country vibes and so on. I think that was the main difficulty for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely say so. I think I'm so disappointed that, a lot of the Lions guys didn't get a chance to experience South Africa, because, I'll stand up for South Africa any day and say it's an unbelievable country. It's a beautiful country. I'm so disappointed that we didn't get to see, a proper tour. The Lions guys didn't get to go out and experience, the bushveld and the winelands and all those things that we associate with, with Lions tours. Part of the magic of the Lions tour is, seeing the images of the guys going out and enjoying themselves. And it's almost like the Lions tour is a bit like fan fiction. All your heroes from your, individual Six Nations country, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. And you see, but, it's like those videos that you get in New Zealand of, James Haskell and Sean O'Brien, 2 guys that are obviously giving it hammers on the pitch, and then you see them sort of rooming together and getting up to antics in New Zealand. And these types of things are sort of bonding experiences. And I think it was quite restricted in that sense. And I'm desperately sad that the Lions didn't get to have that experience. And similarly, obviously, South Africa was also in a bubble. So yeah, the tour, I think I tweeted it a while ago and said it just feels a bit hollow in that sense. And I think that's no fault of anybody's. It's just unfortunately the global situation we find ourselves in. But yeah, I would be the first to say that there was some magic, some untenable thing which is a bit missing from this tour. And all I can say is I hope that when we get back to Australia and New Zealand thereafter, that it can go back to the guys really just getting out, enjoying themselves, having fun, and us fans sort of living vicariously through it and indulging in that way as well.
Rob, the fans have to acknowledge the sacrifice these players made for the last couple of months, because it doesn't matter if we're South Africans or the Lions, so the British and Irish players, but they made a huge sacrifice. And this is the sad part of the show today, so everyone sorry for it, but most of the people didn't applaud that sacrifice and the merit these players have, because it's hard to accept the conditions. It's hard to go and be closed, and they did it. And they did it with a smile. For me, one of the biggest images of the tour is the Finn Russell with Morgenstein after the game, smiling. That defines for me a game and a tour, because it's what we want, not for rugby. So let's forget the rugby values. It's what we want for sport and life, to have fun even in the worst times. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a shame, as you say, some people haven't really recognized that. Some people have just been like very quick on the tour shouldn't have gone ahead and saying things like this. And I think what they're kind of forgetting is, was it Josh Adams watched his wife give birth over Zoom?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a light decision to take. I mean, maybe for him it was a get out of jail card and he didn't want to be there. But like in reality, I think that's probably not the case, you know, like that's a big thing that he's had to make a decision. And also, like, you know, I think everyone's talked about the controversy around him only being selected in the final test, when before I think everyone thought he was the first name on the team sheet after his, you know, early tour performances. So I think, you know, to take that kind of sacrifice, and, you know, potentially if the second game had gone a little better for the Lions, he might not have even seen a test appearance. Like, you're talking months in a bubble, missing huge family events. That's a massive, massive sacrifice. So absolutely, I think more than ever, the weekday players, you know, your Xander Fagersons and people like that, Gareth Davis, who didn't get test action, we really need to applaud them for actually going and giving their best shot at this tour. And the same really for the South Africans as well, because, you know, they will still have been in a bubble through this time. I mean, at least they're in their home country, but, you know, it was a long tour. And I imagine with all of the drama going on, like behind the scenes as well, that's an intense environment to be in for an extended period of time. So absolutely kudos to them for managing it. And as you say, for seeming to kind of enjoy it a little bit as well. I think that's just the icing on the cake, really.
Graham, this defines not only a tour, but teams and players. But let's see on reverse. What they did in this tour defines rugby and defines sport. Do you agree?
Yeah, I largely would. I think so. I think we have to consider kind of the impact sport has on the public and the enjoyment that people get out of it, and that's why this tour went ahead. It as AP said earlier, all the real kind of peripheral stuff was taken out of it. There was none of the kind of the outreach program that Lions are traditionally known for doing and things like that. So it was purely about rugby and about entertainment. And one of the big reasons the tour went ahead was for that entertainment value. The president here was on saying, you know, it's good that it goes ahead because it will give some joy to people. And I think people maybe underestimate that. And maybe, you know, even if the rugby wasn't of the highest quality, it was there for a reason, and it was there to make more than, you know, to make people's lives a little bit better for a little bit of period of time. And that might sound a little bit over the top, a little bit overbearing, but it really was that case here where the lockdowns here have been really, really harsh, and the third wave has been quite severe. So to have something like this going on around it, even in the stifled way it was really, really important. And I think maybe that isn't quite understood across the rest of the world when people are criticising the tour and criticising the rugby that's played. I think, and we said this before the show, I think this was the best tour you were ever going to get in this current environment. And maybe it wasn't the greatest spectacle, but it was definitely like a tour for the history books. So yeah, I think it's really important. I think the impact it's had is far, far wider than just rugby as a sport. It's had a big impact here.
We talked about the spectacle. Let's go that. Now let's go to the tactical analysis. People call it boring, the way that both teams played, more for the Boks because they won. So they say that the boring team or boring tactic won. But it's not true. The way the Springboks play, and AP before the show talked about it a bit, it's tactical. It's like chess playing, and the Boks are very good at chess. They know how to control emotions. They know how to advance on the field. They know how to not lose their cool, even if they're losing. In all three test matches, they lost. They were losing at the halftime, and they came back stronger, and they proved they are chess masters, Jack Nienaber and Hazy Erasmus. So do you agree with me that it's not a boring style, it's just a tactical approach, a tight tactical approach and a physical way of managing the game, or you think you can consider it boring, Graham?
I don't think it was boring. I understand where the criticism comes from, but I would ask people to that final try from Colby. You're not going to see many better tries than that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we said before this again. The South African side is a side that's built for those big moments. You know, it stood up in the World Cup, it stood up here, it stood up in the Rugby Championship, and they might not be going end to end, but then they're playing a team that wasn't going to let them go end to end either. So when you consider that Lions defence, which is clearly what they were going to build their Test series on, the 4 tries they scored, you know, you put that into any other rugby match, you put that into an All Blacks versus Australia game, we'd be applauding it. So I think it's maybe a little bit unfair. I think it's a very definite profile to how South Africa play. But they're so early in their development as well. I think people expecting them to, you know, be playing width and you know, side to side, using the full width of the pitch. It's just futile. First and foremost, they have to get their basics right, and that's largely what they did in this series. And then, you know, Stick's a great attacking coach. He'll build on what they've got here. So I think they've got the foundations, and I think we'll see them develop over the next 18, 20 months, depending on what happens, you know, globally with rugby. But I don't think they're a boring side. I think they're a successful side, and I think that maybe muddies the water a little bit.
Graham, if you could define the way the Boks play in one word or 2 words, what would they be?
Confident. I think they're confident. I think they know where their strengths are, and they play with those strengths. And that's how any good side is always going to play. Like people, you know, we talk about the All Blacks, and we talk about Australia, and we talk about Argentina and how they play, but they play to their strengths. And any side that wants to be successful has to first and foremost build itself around its strengths. South Africa is confrontational, always has been, always will be. It's never, the side's never going to take a backward step. It's always going to stand up. And that's a great foundation to build your side on. They will build on top of that, but they've only had 18 months really together. You know, Nienaber and Erasmus took over in summer 2018, I think, and
a bit before, 1 month before,
18 months into the World Cup, and then they've had almost 18 months stand down. So what are you going to, you know, how are you going to build an attack in that period of time? You can have all the Zoom calls you want, unless you're actually out and practicing it. It's very, very difficult. So I think the confidence side, and they back their abilities, and I think that's something to be admired. And then when you look at the Lions, they probably didn't. They're probably the polar opposite of that. They probably didn't back their abilities. They reverted to type and went into it and didn't actually play with their full skill set, whereas South Africa just stuck to their guns, stuck to what they were good at, built on their foundations. And, you know, as I said, they scored 4 fantastic tries, and that's not to be sniffed at. I think they're excited, and I think there's a lot to come for them, really.
AP, confident. It's such a confidence. It's such a good word to define the Springboks. People sometimes confuse physical approach and trying to be the bullies on the field with boring tactics or not so beautiful way of playing rugby, but it works. And when it works, the rest is just mere opinions of people who want to see Super Rugby, old-fashioned Super Rugby with a lot of tries, low defense, and just magical. But that doesn't give you trophies, does it?
Well, I think I'd like to pick up on 2 excellent points that Graham made. And I think the first one I'd like to say is that in all of this, the poor man who's been forgotten is Steve Tandy, who's, absolutely brilliant as a defensive coach. You know, he's been excellent for Scotland, and he was absolutely brilliant for the Lions. Watching the I guess, warm-up games that the Lions played, if you looked at how well they defended, I as a South African was watching that going, I'm worried. I was watching them defend against the Sigma Lions in that first game, and their try-line defense, I think it was something like 10, 15 phases. They were just unrelenting. And I was like, right, no, this is going to be a proper, almost knife fight in a phone box style, arm wrestle style test match, because you have two of the most, astute defenses in world rugby. So it's not a massive surprise to me that we weren't seeing, it raining tries. The game was always going to be sort of fought at close quarters.
Mhm.
I sort of felt that Gatland might go the way that he would, because he, outside of New Zealand, he's probably been the coach that has seen the most success against South Africa, and he has seen that success on the back of a Sean Edwards defense, on the back of excellent breakdown skills, effectively sort of bringing disruption to every breakdown. So I figured that he would employ the same game plan, and unfortunately that is not aesthetically very pleasing. It's not the way it is, but I don't necessarily think that was the wrong way to go about it. I think that perhaps the Lions, also the second point I'd like to touch on is I agree with Graham in that I think that the Lions had the personnel to play a different type of game, and perhaps should have. And we saw glimpses of it in the third test. But all in all, I do think that the it's difficult to define this test match as boring. It's a completely objectively construed statement, which is tough. And the final thing as well that Graham touched upon, and I completely agree with, is that ultimately the Boks are.
He was saying something important again, and it flux.
The suspense is massive.
Wait, AP, go back 5 seconds and restart.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I was just going to say that I still think that the Boks are about 70% of the way to the finished article. And I think that they're going to use this rugby championship, and they're going to use the end of year tour to start developing new attacking structures, testing combinations.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to see them play a bit more expansively. I'm very excited to see the game against Argentina, because I think it's going to be a brilliant game tomorrow, because Argentina bring, a completely different challenge to the Lions in the way that they play. So yeah, I wouldn't write this Boks side off as that they're just going to stay this way forever. It's just going to be high kick and chase. I think it's going to be, we are going to see a development. It's just going to take a little bit of time. They haven't had yet.
Rob, now going a bit to the Lions, so people don't say we are just Springboks lovers in this podcast today. But we can talk about all the things that didn't go well for the Lions. But what do you think did went right for Warren Gatland in his selection?
That is a tough question.
Come on, there's good things.
Yeah, no, I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean, just like thinking back on the tour. I mean, the first thing I think I'm going to say, and it's actually just carrying on from a point that both Graham and AP have made, is that they were not very far away from that coming off. The final game was what, 3 points, and it's like, one decision, one bounce of the ball, like all of the cliches you can think of. And if it went their way, then the Lions have just won a tour, and we're saying, well, what went so right, And we're saying what went so wrong for South Africa. So actually, I think what went right, I think this, like I said earlier, I felt the team didn't really settle, but equally I felt the selections were decent enough. I thought it was harsh on some people, like, say, Stuart Hogg getting dropped in the final game, because I always back him to bounce back as a Scotland fan. But equally, he brought in Liam Williams, and brought in Josh Adams, and they didn't have bad games. I know everyone's been picking on Liam for a couple of things, but actually, like, overall, I didn't think he played dreadfully. So the selections and things, I think, were clever. Like you said, Steve Sandy employed, like, his defense was decent again. So tactically, I don't really think Gatland got too much wrong. I think it was a case of South Africa were better. Yeah. Maybe another warm-up game, maybe something, one selection. Everyone's saying, oh, put Finn Russell in and we would have won the series 4-0. Which, as a Scotland fan, I'd love to say that's true. But, I think they played a good game, and I just think it wasn't quite there. Maybe that's not some kind of astute analysis, but as a fan, I liked what I saw, and I don't think that it wasn't far off. I don't feel bitter about this tour.
Okay.
I've felt bitter in the past, but not this time.
Not this time. Yes. Okay. Graham, the decision when Finn Russell came in, the team started playing differently, and especially on the decision of taking the penalties, not to the poles, but going to the line out or the scrum. Do you think it was a breath of fresh air? I think they lost in the end, but they risked everything on those decisions. For you, what's your opinion about that changing of mentality from the moment Finn stepped on the field?
Yeah, I'm not sure it was a significant change in mentality. I mean, certainly we saw the ball move through his hands a little bit quicker than bigger, but I think that was always going to be the case in this final test. I think the options of taking the corner that was there in the first test. That's exactly what happened after half time in the first test. The Lions played to the corner when they could have taken 3 points and drawn level, and they went for the corner and got the try, and that really was the kind of the moment that changed the tour. I think in this final test, I think the big change of momentum in the final test was Murray coming on, to be honest, and Alan Wynne-Jones kind of ceding the captainship to Murray, and I think that's where maybe the Lions got it wrong in continuing to play for the corner. They weren't getting that dominance in the line out. They weren't taking control of the game. And I think whilst it was a brave decision to maybe like kick to the corner and go for the jugular, I think at a point in the game where you're 10 minutes out, the opposition are 3 points up, you need to take the points and go again from there. And I think that was maybe where the Lions overplayed their hand a little bit. So I don't think it was significantly a change in direction once Russell came on. Like, surely we saw the ball moving through the hands a little bit more. But I think that would have come anyway. And I think the options of kicking to the corner was more strategic one that the Lions went into the game with. And I think maybe that just played out against them towards the end of that match.
AP, do you agree with Graham? Oh, he blocked. It's always on the big
every
moments.
time. Yeah, no, getting all the big moments wrong this year. No, but I'd agree with Graham 100%. I think that the decision to kick to the corner before half time, I think, was completely justified because it was a chance to effectively go. I think it might have been 15 points up or something like that. It would have almost put the game to bed. And I think that at that time, with an extra half to go, your side completely in ascendancy, I think that was the right decision. I think it showed the right type of initiative. So yeah, I think that they clearly backed themselves, and unfortunately Curry gave away that penalty, which was pretty much a technical infraction. On another day you might get away with that. But then yeah, I completely agree with Craig.
He agrees with you. That's okay. Wait. You're back.
In the latter stages, when it does become sort of do or die, I think that you do need to sort of bank those points that you have on offer, and sort of build from there. With 10 minutes, there's enough time to launch another attack. 10 minutes is plenty of time. You don't need to sort of go for broke in that situation. And then, particularly as you say, Graham, when they weren't really getting the purchase they wanted, the South African maul defense, I think, was pretty good over the course of the tour. The Lions, the 2 tries they scored were from mauls, and I think that's just a credit to the Lions maul, I guess, set and attack rather than South Africa being weak in that area. So yeah, I mean, we saw 2 steals on the 5-meter line. I think one by Etzebeth, one by Mostert over the second and third test. So yeah, no, I think that going for the corner wasn't necessarily the right decision there. But briefly coming back to Finn Russell and the impact that he had, I think that because Russell is such an instinctive player, I think a lot of the acceleration of the game and the way that the Lions play is sort of reactive off of him. He's very much the type of fly half that you almost find yourself running into space simply because he has the ball. And I think that's almost a magic trait that he has. I think that it's a shame we didn't get to see more of him. And I'm a massive Dan Bigger fan. I pinned him as my starting flyer from the start of the tour. I was worried, I suppose as a few people were, that Russell might be too loose and that the South African defensive line would put pressure on him and force him into bad decision making and force him to try and create a magic moment which would work in our favor. I say ours, in South Africa's favor. But I think that he proved as much to me as to anybody else that actually he's a player for the big game moments as well. He's not just some maverick. I think it's actually unfair to term him a maverick. I think he's a complete player. His kicking game, his distribution, his tactical kicking, and also every moment off the tee as well. He was dead on. So I think Russell he's a complete package now, and perhaps I got that wrong, and a few people got that wrong to underestimate him.
Well, we're going to the last 15 minutes, 20 of the show. Rob, I'm going to start with you. Best player of the tournament, of the series, sorry.
Now we're talking about Finn Russell. Can I just do that to annoy a load of people? Because I've always
you can.
Scotland fan, are you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think it depends on obviously the team you're selecting from. The Lions for me 100%, and it's I'm not gonna say anything controversial here. Was Maro Itoje. He was consistent. I think he's a guy who lives on the edge, and I would say actually for the last year or so for England and in the games I've seen him, he's been on the edge, but like on the wrong side of the edge. He's been a bit of a liability in most of the big games he's played. And I was a little bit disappointed that he was sort of a starting choice, to be honest. But he completely got it spot on. He was making all the big plays. He was getting in the way, being a nuisance, but crucially, he was on the right side of the law. So he was absolutely massive for the Lions. So for me, from a Lions perspective, that's who I'd go for player of the tour.
Okay, but I'll go back to you, Graham. Player of the series.
Mostert.
Oh,
Mostert
good choice
for me. So really, I think moving him back to 7 is what it won the series. So Steph Dutoit, or Peter Steph Dutoit, getting injured, he was already carrying a shoulder injury. So going off and Mostert moving back and bringing the Iago in, it made such a difference. It stopped the Lions line out. It stopped them all. It literally changed the direction of the series. And I think he was playing well. I think moving him back to 7 was a brilliant move. And I think that is where the series was really won. It was brilliant tactical move by Ninabo and Erasmus. And I think it's what stole the series.
Wow, good choice, Franco Mostert. AP, player of the tournament.
I'm going to give a few. If I may.
From you can give a few, but in the final, you have to say the best.
Yeah, no, I'll come to my conclusion. But just in terms of the Lions, I think I'd like to flag. Obviously, it's a.
Damn it! You was talking about the Lions. Wait, you were talking about the Lions. Go again.
I can't help. No, I said there's nothing I can say about Itoje that hasn't been said, so I'm just going to leave him. I mean, he was obviously spectacular. But I'd like to give a word to Jack Conan and to Ali Price. Conan, I think, was someone that I didn't see on many people's picks for the squad, never mind the starting team. And I think he acquitted himself absolutely brilliantly. And I think it might have been the type of performances that will make Farrell sit up and think, well, we might actually have a replacement here for CJ Standing. One who I'm back. I think.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, you're back. Now you're back.
He's gone again.
No, okay, brilliant.
Gone in
Okay, yeah, no.
60
So, no, I think Ali Price. We've gone in 60 seconds. Actually, I think Ali Price is another one who perhaps a lot of people expected that Murray would be the de facto scrum half, and I think that it was right to start Ali Price. I think he, everyone knows what he brings in terms of being a game breaker, but I think his ability to actually be a game manager was vastly underestimated by a lot of people. So I think he acquitted himself brilliantly, and I think actually in all the key moments he really stood up. So for me, Conan and Price are the two that I'd say were probably not getting quite enough plaudits. But then my player of the series. It's tough not to say Mostert. Every inch of me wants to say Mostert. I agree with everything that Graham said about how brilliant he's been and how everything he's changed. But I'm actually going to give it to Lukanyo. I think that his ability as a defensive player, just to manage and this entire defensive system, is fantastic. And he flies under the radar a bit. He's not very outspoken. But he's absolutely so good. That's ultimately the only analysis I can bring to it, apart from to say that he's a brilliant game manager. He runs that defensive line. He and Delinda together. I think Delinda had a fantastic series as well. But Lukanyo for me was my player of the series.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Jump in there?
You can go.
So it's a really good choice there, AP, because. And everyone talks about Am's defense and unbelievable defender, runs everything. But that series came down, at the end of the day, it was a small piece of attacking play by Am that separated the two teams at the end of the day. That together, taking Price on and letting the ball go around the back. It's
that footwork to commit the defender and then the offload.
Absolutely. And that try wouldn't have happened without Am. So we all talk about his defense because it's so visible. But there's so much more to him. He was there for that try in the second test. He read it, was through, put it, scored it, and then a really small piece, like a fraction of a second of rugby, changed the direction of that match. He is a brilliant defender, but he's a really underrated attacker as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He. I think Lukanyo. I wrote a piece about the Lions tour, the last one for Fair Play. And for me, the player of the series was Itoje and Lukanyo. If the people that are seeing the show have time, see the games, the matches, and look to Am without the ball on the defensive skill and attacking. I think he's nearing almost a perfection kind of stage for a center, because off the ball he's perfect, and it's the best player you could have. There were two occasions in the last test when Finn Russell tried to change the line of attack, and Am, before Finn Russell could do it, predicted the Lions were trying to do something, an overlap or trying to a small kick, and Am stopped that action. I think that defines a team and defines a player and can define a series like Am did. And we're going about now. A moment for you that defined the series for me was Khaleesi tackling Robbie Henshaw before he scored a try. So now you're going to jump in. Rob, moment of the series for you. Come on.
I'd prepared for a couple of questions and that was not one. As a Scotland fan, Chris Harris absolutely clattering into Am is a brilliant moment, but I don't think that's a very representative moment. So this is going off the top of my head, but actually that finish from Am on that try was just like exceptional work. So maybe that's a bit of a cop-out because we were just talking about it. But yeah, I guess, there's my two moments. They both involve Am. One, Chris Harris in the second test, and then that final try in the last test as well. Brilliant moments.
Ram. It's difficult.
It is because despite what we say, there was every match had two or three moments where the direction changed, and you can pick lots of different moments. I think the in 6 months' time, running back, the moment that makes me sit up and go, oh my gosh, we're here. That first hit by Am on daily. It's the most visually impressive bit of rugby in the whole tour. Flying out, and yeah, we can discuss whether it was legal and all the other things, but if you were ever in doubt about the intent of these two teams to play in this series, it was physical, it was brutal. It's all the things you come to expect from a test series. So yeah, I would say that first tackle by Am, it's definitely the moment in the whole tour, 30 seconds or 1 minute into the tour, where everybody sat up and went, oh my gosh, we're here. It's going to be a proper test series. And I think that, yeah, for me, it's that first hit by Am on daily. It just set everything up.
AP. Moment that defined.
Wonderfully illustrative, isn't it? That hit.
Moment to define the series for you.
That first hit was wonderfully illustrative. I completely agree. It set everything up. It was just laying down a marker. It was signing your name on the jersey, as Ninaba likes to say. My favorite moment, I suppose, and I think the one that sort of will forever stick in my mind was that scrum in the third test that Trevor and Nyakane won on the 5 meter line of the Springboks when the Lions had the ball and were on the attack. I think that was an enormous moment for South Africa to come away there with the penalty. And I know that it was in the coaching box as well, because from what I've heard, people who could overhear the South African coaching box would have heard Nina was screaming quite furiously on the radio that this scrum is for the series. This scrum is for the series. And I think that sort of narrative adds to the whole, I suppose, mysticism and of the whole event. But yeah, I think Trevor Nyakane, a guy who, is asked to play loosehead. I've not seen him play loosehead in about 6 years. For him to come on in that second test and dominate in that way, and then to do it again, credit has to go to him. He's not been in form. I said I was worried about his form. I think Robbie Kempson, who knows what he's talking about as a South African pundit, said he was worried about his form. So the entire weight of expectation was on his shoulders, and he just stood up. So there's not a nicer guy in rugby than Trevor Nyakane. So I'm so glad for him, and that moment will forever stick in my mind. Along with, of course, Morné Steyn coming back, miracle comeback, and slotting the winning conversion, or winning penalty.
An off-field decision made by the coaches that defined that was very good for you. AP, we can start. It's hard.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky to try and make a decision. I think in the third test, the decision to bring Morné Steyn on when they did. Pollard, I think, had a good test series, but his kicking was a bit erratic. And I think trusting Morné Steyn to play whatever it was, 15 minutes, so not just as a complete parachute mercenary kick the kick. I think they trusted him to run the show for a good 15, 20 minutes. So that was one. I think the decision to bring Jasper Wiese on as a starter in the second and third test, I think that was the wise decision. I think that Quagga Smith, Ninabe himself said, I think that he was in the wrong role or wasn't utilized correctly in the first test. So I think that was a big one. And then I suppose on the Lions side, I think a big decision was to start Courtney Laws. He's had his detractors over the years, but particularly in that first test, I think he was excellent. I think he was brilliant. He and Jack Conan. I mean, that back row, in its entirety functioned incredibly well. Yeah. Those would, I'd say, in terms of like coaching selections, off-field selections, were probably quite astute.
Rob, for you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that on Laws. I think that was a masterstroke. He really, I don't think anyone questioned him at any one point. I also think a lot of people didn't necessarily sing his praises, but that's almost a sign that he was doing everything right. He just went about the job, did it really well. Yeah, not one that I would have foreseen, and I questioned his original inclusion in the squad. So that was a huge one. And then I think it was the second test, bringing on Luther Jaeger. I'm trying to think it was at some point in the second half, but really changed the line out. And I think that was talked about a lot on commentary over here at the time. But that was a huge moment. I mean, Lions were in a pretty good position at one point in that game, and I think that all kind of changed around that time. So yeah, I mean, those are the ones that sort of come to the top of my mind. I think I could probably think of a few more, but yeah, those are the standouts really.
Ram, for you, off-field decisions.
So for the Boks, I have to agree with Robbie. I think that decision to bring Diego in changed the direction of the whole series. Moving Mostert back to 7, it would have been really easy to just. I think I agree with AP about bringing Visser in for the second test. Haga is a brilliant player, and I think he's a good indication of where the Boks want to go in terms of attacking play. But I think they needed an abrasive 8, and I think Visser is that. So I think for the Boks, that moving Mostert back to 7 and bringing Diego in, it was the moment that probably turned the series in their favour, because it shut out the Lions line out, which is what they've been building all their momentum on. So I think that was a really, really clever decision by Ninaba to make that. For the Lions, probably Laws. I agree. South Africa had to do a lot to contain him. Again, he's not a guy I would have thought as a starting Test 6, but watching him against in the warm-up games, I was really, really impressed. Bringing him into the Test series and playing him at 6 again, I think that was on the cards, having watched him in the warm-up games. But he did actually stand up and really perform. He was brilliant in that first test, probably the man of the match over Itoje. He was a bit of an easy pick, really. But what I think was really demonstrative about his presence in the series was how much South Africa played him out of the game in Test 2 and Test 3. He had small moments, but he was never quite as dominant. And that's largely because he was getting double teamed on the carry and all those kind of things. And his presence was really, really marked out by South Africa. So I think for the Lions, that's probably the biggest or the most evident tactical decision. And then defensively as well, I think Tandy was probably instrumental in them even being as close as they were. I think if it had been any other defensive coach, we might not have had such a close series. I think Tandy did a really, really good job in building that defence. But in terms of sheer tactical decisions, probably Laws for the Lions.
Okay. Fun. Now let's go to the last part of the show. It's a quiz time for you all. 6 questions. You have to write it down and say it, the answer after we finish the 6. The winner takes a prize that I'll say it on Twitter in the next week. So it's going to be 6 easy questions. Don't worry. So I'm going to start with the first one. Who scored the first Lions try on the start of the tour?
My memory is... I knew I should have done some revision.
Write a name.
Yeah, this is going to be embarrassing for me, as supposedly as someone who knows rugby.
No, this one is hard because it's
Francisca. How niche is it going to get? Is it going to be like how many tackles, how many rucks attended did Itoje make in the final 20 of the second test?
No. You wrote it down. We're going to the second question now. Okay, this one is hard. Who started at 10 in the 2009 Lions tour to South Africa? Bonus point if you can say who subbed him at the 61 minute when he got injured.
So he started for South Africa or started for the Lions?
For South Africa.
Yeah, that one I know. I was 12 at the time, so that's really hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got no clue on that one.
For the three of you, no Wikipedia. Write a name, and if you want to try the bonus point, write the second name. Maybe you get it right.
As a clue, I actually advocated for this guy being in the squad this time round at one point.
Okay, you want a clue? It is.
No. I know the clue. I know who it is. It's okay.
Okay, can I go for the first question?
Go for it.
Rob, Graham, can I go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, player with the most cap for the Lions after the tour. Bonus point if you say the second one.
I saw this on Twitter this week.
Yeah.
When you say most caps, you mean overall in Lions history, or do you mean as in on the tour?
On the on so that played on this tour. So that's the gonna.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
We are only counting the test match caps. So the midweek games, if you want to call it, doesn't count. Remember,
it's not who I think it is, and I'm just trying to think.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's one of those questions I'm going to get either brilliantly right or catastrophically wrong.
Wait, so can you just repeat the question again? Because I now feel like I had an answer.
I will repeat the question. Okay. Player with the most caps for the Lions after the tour. Bonus point if you say the second who has most caps.
Okay. Player with the most caps for the Lions after this tour.
And
not counting the midweek games.
Not counting the midweek games.
Okay.
I've got one, and it feels like a stab in the dark. But again, it's either a genius stroke and I've nailed it, or it's just completely miles away.
Okay, let's go for the fourth question. Can I? So this one is easy. Who had the fewest caps for the Springboks before the start of the tour? I'm going to say 3 names. You have to say if it's one of them or another guy that I'm not saying. So Damien Willemse, Renard Elstad, or Mark van Staden. Just want to know the player who has had the fewest caps before the start of the tour. Say you are ready for the 5th question, please, when you are.
I mean, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Ready, Graham?
Yeah. As ready as I'm going to be.
Ready, Rob?
Okay. Yeah.
Going to the 5th. Which South Africa franchise lent the most players to the Springboks for this tour? It was the Sharks, the Stormers, or the Bulls? AP knows this one. I didn't know it. I had an idea, but
it's tricky because there are more that got called in later.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a help. So it's the full selection. It's not the selection that was cut.
Sure,
Okay.
but I mean, yeah, but there were players before the end of the 3rd test who got called back, and it was a bit tricky. So, for example, a Stormers hooker left the squad and a Sharks scrum half came into the squad. So, are we talking about when the squad was first announced?
So I'm going to give you 2 more helps. Let's say, for example, Sanele Nohamba. I think I'm saying the name right.
Sanele Nohamba.
Yeah, it counts. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to the first. So when the squad was first named. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Okay. And for the last question, can I go for it?
Yeah.
Okay, to finish, this one is very hard. How many points did Mornstein score combined the 2009 and 2021 tours?
Forget it. No chance.
I'm going to make a guess that it's more than 3.
Yeah, it's more than 3.
It's at least 6. I know that much.
Well, you have a start point. You have a start point. Let's say if you give me the 2000, if you give me the 2021 points, it's half a point. If you give me the full answer, it's 1.5 a point. Come on, I'm being nice now. When you finish, say I'm ready.
I mean, I'm never ready, so let's go.
Can't remember, but okay, right, go on then. Fine,
Graham,
I'm ready.
you finished?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
for
no
the first
idea on that
question,
last one, but-
I asked you who scored the first Lions try at the start of the tour. AP, who did you say?
I have absolutely no idea. I think it was off. Was it not off the back of a driving maul? No, it wasn't off the back of a driving maul. But I've got Luke Cowan-Dickey, but I don't think that's right.
Graham,
Josh Adams.
Rob?
Yeah, it's a good choice.
See, I've now got Tide Furlong, but now with AP's answer, I think in my head I'm thinking of a Luke Cowan-Dickey score, but I just remember Tide Furlong standing up. So now I'm at C. But yeah, let's go Tide Furlong.
Okay.
Good question. Is it the Japan game included?
Oh, that's
it's
oh.
the trick.
Oh, that is
So
a trick
if it's
question.
Japan, it's Josh Adams.
It's
So-
Josh Adams, but when I wrote this down, I think they're going to say this, and they can get and they start. They might protest, so I'm going to say this. It was Josh Adams against Japan, but in South Africa, it was Riz Ahmed against the Lions.
Okay, well, we were wrong either way.
Okay,
I was
So
wrong either way.
1 point to Graham. Let's still go to the second one. So who started at 10 in the 2009 Lions tour to South Africa? Rob.
Absolutely no clue. But for the bonus point, as a guess, was it Stain who came on?
Okay, Graham.
Pinar.
At the start, and at the sub, you put someone else?
So Pinar started and Stain replaced him.
Okay, AP.
Yeah, Ruan Pienaar started, and then Steyn replaced him for his debut in the first test, and then obviously the second test was the decider.
Okay, I can say that AP and Graham get 1 point. It was Ruan Pienaar. Yeah, he came out at 61 minutes. But the player who subbed him was Heinrich Broswell.
Oh, come on, Heinrich
Yeah.
Rousseau. Officially, maybe,
Rousseau.
but there's no chance.
Well, okay, Graham.
You're getting niche now, Francisco. You're getting niche.
This is okay, Graham. I asked all of you the player with the most caps for the Lions after the tour. Bonus point if you give me the second more. Who are the players?
Alan Wynne-Jones and Vunipola.
AP, what's your answer? Wait.
Yeah, Magic. I'm
Wait,
back.
wait.
Yeah, I had. Yeah, I had.
realistically.
Yeah, so Alan Wynne obviously is most, and then I had Mako Vunipola as well. I think he started all three tests in both of the previous two series. I think he's on 9 now, isn't he?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think he's the same. But Wynne-Jones was in 2009 as well. So I think
Yeah,
Wynne-Jones
exactly.
is most and Vunipola. So,
Rob.
but again,
Let's see.
We'll see.
Rob.
I gone for Alan Wynne, and then I told you the other one I gone for was like a niche stab in the dark. But Courtney Laws has actually was he on the last two tours? He was definitely in New
was.
Zealand, and I thought
He
I
was in
actually
New
think
Zealand.
he's one of those ones who's got more caps than you think. So I put him down, but
Okay, I can say that Graham and AP are absolutely right on this. They have the 2 points with the bonus. You get 1 point, Rob. Alan Wynne-Jones finished his Lions career supposedly with 12 caps, as Mako Vunipola has 9. So fourth question I asked, who had the fewest caps before the start of the tour? Willemse, Elstad, or Staden? AP, who you picked?
Marco van Staden, I think, had the fewest.
Okay. Wait, I'm laughing. Graham.
That's always a
I
good
had
sign.
no clue as a guess, so I just put down Elstat. I had no idea on this one.
Rob?
I just guessed, and I actually went for Van Staden as well.
Okay, I can say that it's Elstad.
Elstad had the fewest. That's
Yes,
surprising to me.
he had 2 cups before.
And Van Staden had 3.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Van Staan had 3. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. 5th question. Which franchise lent the most players to the box? What you pick, Rob?
I went for Sharks.
Okay.
It was going to be Sharks or Bulls, but
Graham.
So yeah, it's one of these questions where I kind of psyched myself out and ended up putting down the Stormers, but because I thought it'd be the Bulls, I thought it'd be the Sharks, and I just thought actually I think it's a trick question for the Stormers. I had no idea, but I put the Stormers.
That's my history on the law career in the university. I pick the like that the answers. Okay, AP. So who was it?
Yeah, the only one I knew for sure I knew it wasn't the Bulls because I know they were criminally underrepresented. So I knew it was either the Stormers or the Sharks.
Okay.
And I think I'm right in saying that it was Sharks initially, and now there are no more Stormers in there. Or maybe the other way around. I initially put Stormers and then thought, no, actually it feels like there were more Sharks because of players like Job Benke and those guys. So I'm going to say Sharks.
Okay, I can say that Rob and AP are absolutely right. It was the Sharks with 12 players. Okay, last question, and the hard one. How many points did Morne Stein score in 2009, 2020, 21 combined? Graham.
So 6 in 21, and then
okay,
I think
half a point.
It was 16.
Okay, AP.
Yeah, so I was debating this as well. 6 obviously in 2021. I think we all got that, and then I think I wrote 20 because I don't remember if he played the 3rd test or not. I know in the 2nd test, obviously the winning penalty, another penalty, and also I think a conversion. But yeah, I'm going to say 26 all in all, 6 in 2021.
Okay, and Rob.
I completely guessed, but I'm glad with what Graham said 16 because I said 15, so I can't be too far out.
Okay.
No, mine was a guess, honestly.
Okay, this breaks my heart because AP was almost right for 1 point. So in 2021, it was 6 points. 2009, he scored 19 points.
I knew it was close.
But I'm going to give you a point because it's very close.
1 point out. We're here or there.
Okay, let me say who won this bout. So Graham had 1, 2, 4 points, 5 points. AP, you had 1, 3, 4, 5 with this one, and Rob, you got 1, 2 points.
I just want to apologize to anyone who follows my blog and thinks I know anything about rugby. You've now got your confirmation. And to my family, if you're watching, it's... come
on.
They were tricky questions, Francisco.
Yeah, I'd like to do this. It is a draw. We're gonna end with a draw. I like draws. People don't like it, but I like one, and so we're gonna high-five AP and Graham. So, final word do you want to say to the people who watch the show that they're gonna watch after it? Positive word, because I think a lot of bad stuff was written during the tour and after the tour, and we're not focusing on the positivity and the good news that came out of it. Graham, you can start.
I think enjoy it for the moment it was. You'll never see it again, or unlikely to see it again in our lifetime in the way it was with everything that's going on globally. I think it was a small moment of enjoyment in an otherwise really, really difficult time for a lot of people, and that's the thing I would take out of it. Seeing the impact here was huge, so I would say enjoy it for the moment in time it was.
AP, for you.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to sort of rekindle some of the kinsmanship that we have in the rugby community. I'd really love for when things open up again for people just to sit down, have a pint together or a beer or whatever, and just sort of chat things through and actually enjoy each other's company. It makes such a difference. I think that the world of online can be quite toxic sometimes, and I think I'm guilty of that on occasion as well. And I think it's nice when you can actually sit down.
He started saying something profound and important. That's what happened.
We are rugby fans. We love. Yeah.
Wait.
So yeah, the
Come
Wi-Fi
back,
doesn't
come
want
back.
to play along.
Go.
No, I just think that I think that we are, at the end of the day, all rugby fans. We're all passionate. We love the sport. We love this sort of weird, controversial niche sport of ours, and we're quite protective of our teams and our place within it. And I think that it's nice when we find people who are like-minded. And although the tour hasn't shown up the best of that, I really do hope that going forward we can all sort of rekindle some of that kinsmanship over what we love.
Okay, Rob, your turn.
It kind of just fits in with all of that, but I guess I'd kind of summarize it in like 3 sentences. Chill out. No one cares that much about what you think, and just enjoy it. We've all got our opinions and stuff, and it's so easy, sort of like AP said, to sort of settle on your hill and just battle it out. But in reality, it's just a game. No one really cares that much. So yeah, just like enjoy the game. It's, we're all here because we love rugby, and sort of Twitter just brings out the worst of that, really. So yeah, love it, enjoy it, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely.
So for the people watching us, I have a final favor to ask to all of you. Rob, don't be angry with me, but go to Rubik's Scribbler Twitter page and see. He's not asking for you to lend money or something like that. There's a context here. There's a story. There's a profound meaning to it. And if you could help Rob achieve their goal and give a good push, it will be amazing. Okay, go to Rugby Scribbler, look for it. It's the pin post at the top, and help Rob making. Well, I'm gonna say a dream. If you let me say it, it's a dream, but do it. And it's not a good action, but it shows how the community, the rugby community and the sports community, is glued together for the best and the worst moments. That's how we like to think. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Francisco, and also thanks to everyone who has donated on that page. Just my sister's doing a triathlon for a cause which is, I guess, really close to our hearts at the moment. So thank you to everyone who's donated so far. It's been amazing. We've raised kind of just from the Rugby Scribbler a couple of £100 already, which is amazing. So just thank you if you have donated, and if you're going to go and have a look and do that, then also thank you. And thank you, Francisco, for sharing that, because that means a lot.
Okay, so Rugby Scribbler, Graham is the dead ball area. He makes a very good analysis of the game and moments and game and plays and so on. So you understand what's beneath the of the play and how it was built and so on. So look for him in Twitter. And AP Cronier, it's AP Cronier on the Twitter. He's one of now the big guys from no, it's true. You got a lot big, and I think
big mouth maybe.
Now you have two people here alongside with me that can say you tried to put an ice bucket over the volcano heat that was achieving between everyone, and you tried to people, calm down, listen, talk, don't shout. And that's important for us, because in the Twitter age or era, whatever you want to call it, and Facebook era and Instagram era and so on, we start shouting and not trying to learn the good arguments that some people have. Because and AP had good arguments, talked. It's like the same with Rob and Mr. Graham in the dead ball area. Calm and peaceful thinking. And thank you for it, AP, because you said all of us are guilty of some of the heated debate, but you tried to cool the things down when it was needed. You pointed the critical stuff and did criticism for things that happen. But one thing is criticism, another thing is just rage and fury. Thank you for it. So go to his Twitter page, follow him, and it's the best guy. You're still in London, right? In England? Wait, I asked a big question and it blocked.
Yeah. No, I'm just back in time for the question. Yeah, still in London. Just you'd expect I was in the backwaters of SA with the Wi-Fi I've got at the moment, but no, I'm in London.
Well, thank you for all for coming. This was Up and Under. It's the rugby show from Fair Play. Go to website. It's in Portuguese, the pieces and so on, but you can try to Google translate it. I think it does a sort of a good job, but go for it and follow all these amazing people on Twitter. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. There's South Africa against Argentina at 5, if I'm not wrong, AP, tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I think 5 potentially, yeah.
5 in so UK, Portugal, so 6 in South Africa, if I'm not wrong, and 2 and 1 o'clock in Brazil. The All Blacks and Wallabies play in the morning for the second blood is low test. So watch it, and we still have good rugby coming on. Not boring, good rugby. Okay. Thank you for all coming. Bye. See you next week.
Take care. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.